Welcome to Shaq's house. Shaq's house. That's our Shaq. You're now in Shaq's house.
Hey, what's going on, Shaq Housers? How you doing? It's your boy, the one and only Shaq House here. I know I've been away for 2 weeks already, but I've been getting all my ducks in order. Because what we got for you today, this today is a departure from my usual X-Men mutant power stuff. And I know I've done several departures from that before, but today, this is a special request from an old friend. That's right. He wanted to see me do an expose on the Black Knight. That's right, Dane Whitman, the Avenger known as the Black Knight, the Avenging Crusader as I call him. Yeah, this was not my usual forte, but the character was pretty interesting, more interesting than I thought beforehand. Learning about his history and his capabilities, I think I might have to get the Black Knight Ebony Sword series soon. But who is the Black Knight? Check it out.
Who is the Black Knight? He's a scientist from Gloucester, Massachusetts named Dane Whitman. He's the modern-day Black Knight. He's been a member of the Avengers, the Defenders, Excalibur, very briefly, and even the Masters of Evil. He's the nephew of the costume criminal Nathan Garrett, aka the original Black Knight of the modern era, and he's even met Benet du Paris, the Omega-level mutant known as Exodus during the Crusades. Long story, but we'll get to that. As an Avenger, his first encounter with them was a misunderstanding, but he has since served as a field leader for the team and even had relationships with Crystal and the Eternal Sersi. Dane even has an illegitimate daughter who he didn't meet until she was a full-grown woman, and she became his partner as the Black Knight. And Dane was also portrayed in the MCU by Kit Harrington, aka Jon Snow, in that abysmal Eternals movie that they're no longer making a sequel for, thank God. But who is he? Dane Whitman began his career as the Black Knight by appropriating his criminal uncle's paraphernalia. He rode Aragorn, a horse genetically engineered using eagle DNA to have wings and the power to fly. His paralyzer pistol released a burst of anesthetic gas that temporarily placed his victims into a coma. Finally, the multi-purpose power lance contained 45 caliber machine guns, flamethrowers, electrical bolts, concussion blasters, lassos, and grappling lines, and white-hot metal rings that encircled an opponent and burned into them. Later, though, he proved himself worthy of wielding the ebony blade of the original Black Knight, that is, his ancestor Sir Percy of Scandia. The blade was forged by King Arthur's court magician Merlin himself out of a meteorite and was physically and mystically honed to be virtually indestructible and capable of cutting through any substance. The sword could deflect blasts of pure energy, or by angling the blade properly, he could use it to absorb energy blasts and rechannel them to swinging his sword. It could also disrupt magic, cutting through mystical barriers and spells. However, the blade also came with a blood curse, compelling anyone who used the blade to kill someone and to continue killing more and more. After spending a great deal of time in the 12th century during the Crusades, Dane returned to the present with a mystical steed named Valinor. The blood curse had risen to great power during his time then, however, and Dane went to Doctor Strange for help. But Doctor Strange had to turn Valinor into a normal horse, as the impure atmosphere of Earth was poisoned to a steed raised in the otherworld dimension of Avalon, and he dispersed the blood curse's active effects on Dane's mind. Without a horse, however, the Black Knight began using an atomic steed captured by the Avengers, a high-tech flying saddle used by the Knights of Wundagore. As time passed, though, Dane somehow began to be transformed into a living extension of the blade itself. His body became indestructible and sharpened so that a single pass of his hand could cut through solid metal. He also began to stiffen, though, and wore an exoskeleton to enhance his body's limited range of movement back to normal levels. Soon, even the exoskeleton became ineffective, and the Black Knight became a petrified statue. But Dane's friend, Victoria Bentley, attempted to use her meager sorcery skills to reanimate him, using the armor of Sir Percy as a catalyst for her spell. The process went slightly wrong, however, and Victoria ended up resurrecting Sir Percy himself in Dane's body. The original Black Knight would animate Whitman's body so long as he was wearing his full suit of armor and helmet. Removing the helmet would put Percy into dormancy and allow Whitman to control his own body for a brief moment until the petrification settled back in, immobilizing him once more. Sir Percy was skilled in using both the ebony blade and its magic, and used the power of the sword to return Valinor back to his winged state without any consequences. Eventually, Sir Percy transferred his mind directly into the blade itself, an act which enabled Dane and Valinor to continue operating independently without inhibiting spells holding them back. The Black Knight decided at this point that the ebony blade was too dangerous to continue using, so he constructed an energy blade to use in its stead called the Sun Sword. This sword projected a tight beam of electromagnetic energy approximately 2 feet long. By modulating the Sun Sword's field intensity, Dane could cause it to strike like a razor-sharp blade or a cylindrical rod, blunted around all sides. The Sun Sword could also conduct a disruptive neurosynaptic charge, scrambling his opponent's nervous system upon contact. This could simply create intense pain, cause paralyzing numbness, or even kill at maximum intensity. The Black Knight could also adjust the blade's energy flow, reversing it so that the energy fed back and covered his hand in a sheath, increasing the force of his punches and also conducting the neural shock this way. After spending some time in the Ultraverse universe and then returning to the 616 universe just after the Onslaught crisis, Dane was chosen by the Lady of the Lake to be the Pendragon of our age. This gave him certain mystical senses, allowing him to detect the presence of sorcery and see through glamour illusions cast by magic wielders. He wore an amulet around his neck shaped like a sword crossing a shield, and by saying the name Avalon out loud, the Black Knight would instantly be clad in a new lightweight but nigh impenetrable suit of armor, wielding the Shield of Night and the Sword of Light. The shield could also absorb energy directed at its face, and channel the power through his suit and project it back out through the sword. By saying Avalon again, that would displace the armor and weapons back to whence they came, an ability that allowed him to instantly reclaim a lost helmet or sword by displacing them and summoning them again so that they reappeared back into his possession. He also had a new horse, Strider, a magical steed capable of flying faster than the speed of sound and even sustaining itself underwater. Later, the Black Knight abandoned the weapons and paraphernalia that he received from Avalon and once again began employing the ebony blade. His heart was transformed to stone by a lady he once knew, possibly Sersi or the Lady of the Lake, to harden him against the blade's corrupting influence. And for a time, the ebony blade was replaced by another enchanted sword, one imbued with the fang of a vampire. This copy was nearly sentient, attempting to corrupt Dane with its own bloodthirst and manipulating him into believing that he still wielded the ebony blade. Eventually, he reclaimed his true sword, and he also employed a photonic shield generator in his glove, producing an energy field from the back of his hand to absorb attacks in battle. Eventually, Dane learned that the magic of the ebony blade was fueled by the darkness of the wielder. He wasn't quote-unquote worthy or pure enough to wield the cursed blade. Rather, his own negative emotions, pettiness, hate, anger, etc., and tendency towards madness actually fed the blade's power. Leaning into this darkness gave him greater power, but made it difficult for him to retain his heroic nature. Charged with darkness, the Black Knight has exhibited great strength and manifested additional and more powerful armor drawn from the blade. He can launch himself into the air and almost fly, and the ebony blade can project blasts of raw power even without absorbing outside energies. The resurrection enchantment has been in action, using blood magic to restore the Black Knight after being decapitated or even having his flesh burned down to the bone. Some fun facts and thoughts. Highly intelligent, Dane Whitman is a trained unarmed combatant, superb swordsman, and expert horseman. Holding a master's degree in physics with incomplete doctoral work, he is proficient in a wide array of advanced sciences and technologies, including genetic and mechanical engineering. He has strong strategic and tactical skills as well. He's a gimmicky hero, that's for certain. And when I see him and his appearance, the first things I think of are Robin Hood and the film First Knight. But researching his history got me interested enough in the character to buy The Black Knight Curse of the Ebony Blade. You would think that Dane Whitman originated from Marvel's UK line, but he's crossed over there too, and he would fit right in even if he did originate from them. Alright folks, that's what I got this week for The Black Knight. Tune in for my next video, it'll be after Labor Day weekend. And you have a safe and fun Labor Day weekend, folks. I'll see you afterwards. Later!
Mansion, apartment.
Shack house. Yes!